So this is the part where it gets crazy, but I mean, there were I think almost 70 people registered for this event, so I'm not terribly worried about people joining the room. And as you can see, our room is filling up right now. So we are live and we're recording, and all of you wonderful internet people, welcome. We are celebrating the brand new book, Princesses Can Fix It. Yeah!
Oh, yes.
Well, you're here for the launch party. You are in the right place. So this is kind of a big deal. And we have, just like I said, almost 70 people registered for this event. So I just want to take a moment for some friendly banter while we let everybody click the yes button to join us this evening. And I see that folks are filling up the chat already with your congratulations, so yay. So if you're here to celebrate Tracy Marchini, you are in the right place. And she's joined today by James McGowan, who has his own debut very soon in September. We'll talk about that in a second. But while we're waiting for the room to fill up, I would love to know, as y'all kind of like moonlight as authors, but daylight as lit agents, what are you reading right now? Can you tell us any cool secrets?
I mean, it's not a secret. And my bookends colleagues have heard me talk about this 1,000 times. But one of the picture books that I just love, it's called You Are a Beautiful Beginning. And it's just this wonderful take on growth, right? And how, as a child, like everything you're doing is like new and beautiful and wonderful and part of your development. And I just love that idea that like we're never done growing. And it's also, I just love the art. It's beautiful.
Yes, it is. Oh, that's gorgeous. Oh, I'm so excited. James, what are you reading?
Well, in the spirit of picture books, I am reading Freaky Funky Fish by Deborah Shoemaker and Claire Powell. It is hilarious kind of romp about all of the weird things fish can do, from zapping to flying and all of the other crazy things they do. It's funny, it's great illustrations and educational too, so you really can't beat it.
That's really cool. Both of those books are available at independent bookstores near you. Ha ha! So go pick them up. Especially, and you can come to the Silver Unicorn and pick them up as you are picking up Tracy's brand new book, which we're going to pick up again. Yeah. Hey, congratulations on launching Princesses Can Fix It. We're so excited for you. We're so honored that we get to be the ones that launch this book. It is so great. There's STEM and then there's STEAM, and there's a lot going on in this space. And it's just so delightful to be part of the launch of this very cool, I'm going to call it a STEAM book, not a STEM book. What do you think of that? Is that how you would like to think of this book?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think, there's a lot of artistry going on. I mean, first, just Julia's art is beautiful, but also, you're sketching your design plans, and the prince is sewing these elaborate alligator costumes. And in general, I've just always loved the interplay between art and science, which is probably why I'm writing science picture books.
That is awesome. Oh, I can't wait to get a really wonderful inside look at this book in a second. So I'm just going to go ahead and get us started, and then I'm going to disappear. So this is the part where I do my spiel. Good evening. My name is Kara Wilson-Cook. I am the events coordinator of the Silver Unicorn Bookstore in Acton, Massachusetts. It is a delight to have you here this evening. I just have a couple of housekeeping things to do, and then I'm going to stop rambling and I'm going to disappear. The first thing I want to tell you is that this is a Zoom webinar, if you haven't figured that out by now. So that's for your safety as well as for ours. But you should know that the chat is open. I see that many of you are already utilizing it to say congratulations to Tracy, to say hi to James. Continue to do that because this is a launch and we're so excited. So just like flood the chat with good positive vibes. But if you have questions for James and for Tracy, please put them in the Q&A so that way we can keep the questions in a place where questions belong. I will be back at the end of the program close to like 7:45 to help facilitate those. So please go ahead and put your questions there. You should know the Princesses Can Fix It has been available for pre-order for a minute at the Silver Unicorn, and signed copies are already there, right, Tracy? Because you came in today,
Yes.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of coming in yesterday.
Yeah. And I believe that more signed copies will be available as we keep going. So if you want a signed copy of this awesome book, you need to come into the store or visit our website, silverunicornbooks.com. At this point, this is the time when I disappear and just say thank you so much, Tracy, for choosing us to debut and launch your awesome book. And to say thank you, James, for joining Tracy. When we have in conversations with authors and with friends and with lit agents, which I think is super cool, these are just always like just so much more lively and interesting and fun. So I'm delighted to host you both this evening.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is the part where I disappear. I'll be back at 7:45. Have fun.
All right, Tracy. Here we go.
Here it goes. All right. So we'll start with the reading. All right. So Princesses Can Fix It. And this is illustrated by Julia Christians. The king had 3 curious princesses, 1 frustrated prince, and a collection of wandering alligators. Princess Margaret was always sketching. Princess Harriet was always playing with strings, and Princess Lila was always collecting scraps of metal. But the king did not approve. Proper princesses didn't build, invent, or experiment. One morning, the princesses ate their oatmeal while the king tried, and failed, to get the alligators back in the castle moat. "We can fix it," Princess Margaret told the king. "Yes, we can bring harmony back to the castle," said Harriet. "It is probable that we'll weld together a solution," said Lila, "but I can't know for sure." But the king shook his head. Alligator problems are a job for the king. That night, Margaret and her sisters quietly slipped out of bed. Nobody knew where they went, but the next morning, Margaret washed pencil lines from her face, Harriet brushed sawdust from her clothes, Lila fell asleep in her oatmeal. The king didn't know what to do about his sleeping princesses, but Prince Edward made a plan. He was tired of only doing proper princely things. If he could help the princesses prove to the king that they can build, then maybe the king would believe that princes can sew too. That night, the princesses went to bed as usual, but again, they did not stay. "Just a few more tweaks," Margaret said, sketching while she sat on a lever. Harriet threaded a rope, and Lila adjusted a metal pulley. At breakfast, Margaret washed pencil lines from her face, Harriet brushed sawdust from her clothes, Lila fell asleep in her oatmeal. And Edward hurried to the king with a piece of Harriet's rope. "The princesses can fix it. They're building a catapult, or a one-person seesaw, or a dinosaur." "This is just a rope, silly boy," the king said. "And besides, proper princesses don't build." But the prince knew what he saw. That night, the princesses went to bed as usual, but again, they did not stay. Margaret made adjustments to her design plans. Harriet wound a rope around a wheel and axle. "This will help make it easier to use," she said. Lila made screws to attach wooden planks. The next morning, Margaret washed pencil lines from her face, Harriet brushed sawdust from her clothes, Lila fell asleep in her oatmeal, and Edward ran to the king with a handful of Lila's screws. "The princesses can fix it. They're building a sled, or a carriage, or a robot." "That is not a robot," the king said. "And besides, proper princesses shouldn't build." But the prince knew what he saw. That night, the princesses tested all of their machines one last time. At daybreak, they brought a large inclined plane out of the workshop. My calculations suggest that this wedge should hold, said Lila, as she took a wedge and attached the plane to a castle window. Edward ran to the king with Margaret's blueprints. Maybe he'd finally see that princesses and princes could do more than he thought. But the king was too distraught to listen. He couldn't see the castle alligators anywhere. How can I get the alligators back in the moat if I can't find them? He cried. Margaret rushed to wake her sisters. It's finally time to show our work, she said. Princesses, I don't have time for this. I have alligator problems. But you don't anymore, Margaret said, as the princesses lifted the king off his feet and sent him down the slide. Ah, splash! The alligators are back in the moat, he cried, but how did you do it? The princesses were thrilled to show the king their secret workshop. We can draw, play music, and make jewelry, Margaret said, but we also want to build, invent, and experiment. The king walked from workbench to workbench. Perhaps princesses can do both, he said. Princess Lila smiled. I know we can, she said, if we want to. So they built, and Margaret drew, Harriet played music, Lila put aside her jewelry. But most importantly, they all got to be themselves. The king no longer had alligator problems. And nobody fell asleep in their oatmeal.
I wish you could have a whole round of applause. But it's just me because everybody else is in their own homes.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sure. Oh, look, we have clapping in the chat. So there you go. There's your round of applause. I love this book. Congratulations. I have been privileged to see this from first draft to submission stages to sketches and now final book. And I'm so honored to be here to help you launch it. So thank you for having me here. To make the most of our time, I figured we can just jump right in and sort of talk about you and this book and all of the fun stuff that got you here. And yeah. So everyone here likely knows who you are, but they might not know your journey to becoming an author, to getting my personal favorite, Chicken Wants a Nap, on the shelves, and now Princesses Can Fix It. So I thought you can start by telling us a little bit about how you even got into writing. I know that you have an MFA in all of this fun stuff. So sort of give us a little bit about what led you to even write for children.
Yeah. Well, I think like a lot of children's authors, I started writing at a young age. And I still have like pieces that I wrote out on my grandmother's old typewriter. And then I bought myself a typewriter when I was like, I don't know, 10 or 11, because I wanted to feel like a real writer, and real writers had typewriters. And when I was about 14, my mother started writing for children, and she joined SCBWI. And so then I started going as well. And I wrote a picture book and it was terrible, but I did send it out. And so I went through the submission process back when it was all, you know, printed submissions, and you send your self-addressed stamped envelope, and you wait for that physical response. And then, I went to college for journalism. I didn't actually consider that I could work in publishing. But then I was writing for the paper, and I realized that, you know, when I imagine journalism, I imagine like I'm Barbara Walters and I'm doing these hard-hitting investigative pieces. And then it became clear that like, I'm probably not going to be Barbara Walters. And, like the stories that I enjoyed writing for the paper were like personal feature stories. And so I continued to write and submit through college. And let's see, chicken was something that I actually wrote during my MFA program. So the prompt was, tell us about your character's best or worst day. And I was so tired because, right, so I had a full class load as a grad student and I was working 30 hours a week as a Dean's Fellow. And I'm like, oh my God, the best thing in the world would be a nap right now. And so the line "chicken wants a nap" just came out, like popped into my head. And then I decided like, well, I'll write about kind of like the best worst days. So
do you still want that nap? I bet.
oh my God, all the time. I always want the nap. I had a nap today, actually.
Oh, good for you.
Well, I figured I should be fresh for tonight. So,
Yeah.
I was also inspired by Brian Selznick, or not Brian. Yeah, Brian Selznick did a speech where he talked about Remy Charlip's "Fortunately," which has the back and forth, like, fortunately this happened, unfortunately that happened. And so I used that format in Chicken, right? So Chicken's going to have her nap, but then something else happens and she can't. So, I wrote it in school and then probably sat for a year, and a publisher that I had worked with previously when I was assisting at a literary agency sent out a message that they were looking for text. And so I reconnected with the publisher and I said, hey, I have, this book. So they offered, and that was my first book. And then from there, it was time for me to find new rep. And so, just like, everyone that queries us as agents, I was putting together my submission package and I was writing my picture books. And at the time, Princesses was the 12 building princesses, which looking back, I should have known that 12 is a lot for a picture book.
Yep.
So it went down to the 3 building princesses, and then Princesses Can Fix It. So yeah, like I did the submissions, I went through the process, and then here we are.
Well, so where did the idea, the concept, because I love how picture book ideas, and what I think may have even happened with Princess Can Fix It, they start with one thing and then they just kind of snowball and build, because there's so many layers to Princesses Can Fix It, from the STEAM elements to the gender stereotype breaking and all of the humor that you've layered through too. So where did it start? What gave you that initial thought, like this is the idea to start with?
Yeah, so I was actually sitting down and I was talking about brainstorming picture book concepts and how you want to like take something familiar and then twist it. And so we were talking about fractured fairy tales in particular. And so I was like, okay, so like if you had the 12 dancing princesses, which was my favorite fairy tale growing up, and then you put in a STEM element, right? And it became the 12 building princesses. And I said that, and then I was like, you know what? I want to write that one. So don't write that. So I took that away. And it was probably another, I don't know, maybe 6 to 9 months before I sat down to draft it. But yeah, it was just a kind of a brainstorming session about, taking the familiar and making it new and fresh.
Yeah, we actually have someone in the chat saying that Princess Can Fix It is relatable for an adult woman working in finance, just hearing the same sort of sentiments from their boss. And I think that it teaches kids, I mean, boys and girls, that you don't have to, build stuff. If you're a prince, you can sew, and vice versa. So I think that there's so much here for every reader, be it the STEAM elements or the gender stereotypes or just a laugh out loud sort of nighttime read. And that's something that builds, right? Like every draft is something, a new layer and a new element comes into play, and you just sort of build it. And then you stand back and you're like, whoa, I did that. That's a thing I did.
Yeah. And then what's interesting about picture books is kind of like you build and build and build. And then there's a point where you're looking at your word count and you're looking at, okay, now I have to make sure that this is as streamlined and narrow as possible. So then you kind of start to peel back a little bit, and it's just like, okay, you know, do I have my one physical or external arc, right? Like, what do they want to do on the outside? And then it's like, okay, and then is that working with what I want to say emotionally, right? Like, do those two lines meet up and work together in a way that you're hoping for? And Princess is definitely what got wordy at one point. And it's like, okay, like, where, you know, like I had to take a step back and just like remember the core.
But it's almost easier to take away than to add when you realize you don't have enough. So it's a good problem to have.
Yeah, I think so. And I think that's, you know, with picture book writers, since every word is precious and you know that you have the art, you know, you start to get an eye for, you know, what should be told visually and what should be told in text.
Yeah, and the best way to do that is just to be reading picture books. You have to like fully immerse yourself, which is something that you do being a literary agent and working in picture books all day. You just sort of know what does work and what does need to be in writing and what can be shown.
Yeah, and I actually found, I was going through my email and my grad school picture book project, it's called the CIP project, I found it. And we read something like 250 picture books, I think, that semester.
In one semester?
Well, for that one project. So we read more outside of that, but that project was done during the semester. And so it was like we read 250 picture books and then we picked 20 to take a spread and analyze. Clara's a yes, 250. And, you know, like, it was a great exercise, right? Because if you read 250 picture books, you are going to get a sense of the structure and the pacing and the voice. And I feel like every time I am struggling with either of those as a picture book writer, it is helpful to just start pulling books off the shelf and just get in that framework again.
Well, I remember you said something to me, I think like my first year building my own list. I was like, how did you even know that or think of that? And you're like, well, I've read thousands of picture books and that's what did it. I was like, okay, well, that's a good benchmark. It's like the 10,000 hours thing. You have to work 10,000 hours at something to be professional. You have to read 250 picture books in a semester to get to Tracy's level. Okay. Well, you touched on it a little bit, but can you tell us a little bit, especially for the writers in the room, or, you know, the flip side, those who don't know anything about the publication process, what is the process for getting, or was the process for getting Princesses Can Fix It from that first draft in a Word doc to what we all just listened to you read and watched you read?
So, you know, you write the draft and then it's a lot of revisions. So like James read revisions and our colleague Mo read revisions. And then I actually worked with a freelance editor, Sarah Shudo, because I knew I was going to go out on submission to agents and I wanted to make sure that I had the package ready. Or maybe I did that first. I think you
did that first.
Yeah. So once an agent took me on, then they started submitting the book to publishers, and with Princesses, we submitted to Page Street, and Courtney, my editor at the time, was like, I love this, but I'd like to see these things done in a revision, right? So I had the revision request, which you know how exciting that is, right? It's like, yeah. You know? So then I went and I tabled it, and I probably made you and Mo read it like another 3 or 4 times before I sent it to my agent to send to the editor. And then I don't believe there was another, I think from there they offered. So once the publisher offers on your book, then your agent and the publisher are going to negotiate the terms. And then they come to you as the author to approve. And then once the contract is signed, which again goes through your agent, and then use the author sign. Then as the author, you get to work. So Courtney and I had another few rounds of revision. And then once we had a close to final text, the publisher and the art director went out and they put together a list of potential illustrators for the book. Page Street was wonderful. They had me look at a lot of things through production.
I remember every illustrator we looked at, like, okay, but how are their alligators? Like, how do the alligators look? Which we didn't realize was such a popular thing for people to illustrate. So many of them had alligators drawn in their portfolio.
Yeah, but I think we picked the right alligators because these guys are just like, look at this guy eating a cookie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's perfect.
So they came to me with the list and we said like, oh, you know, I love this work. So then the illustrator and the art director go work on their side, and I would see sketches and character designs, but I never speak to the illustrator directly. And that's because I, as the author, had the space to do my work. And so we're giving the illustrator space to do their work. So then COVID actually happened while we were going back and forth. So the book had not yet gone to print. And the rise in Asian hate incidences or anti-Asian hate incidences started to rise. So I actually, you know, knowing that the prince is East Asian, I was like, okay, so, you know, I just want to take another look at this book because I want to make sure that in this new context, there is nothing that can be read that would be harmful, because as a children's books writer, you know, I always want to do no harm.
I'll fix it. I got it.
Okay. So we looked at the text, and so in the original fairy tale, the princes are spying on the princesses when they're dancing. And so we just took another look at our prince and made sure that it was clear that like he was helping and not trying to, you know, hamper the princesses. And so, you know, we had that discussion between the editor had it in-house, which was great because, you know, I certainly didn't want anything to, you know, come out that would make anything worse for a child, right? Like, so once we were, you know, totally satisfied with the text and the illustrations, and I saw the proof, it went to print. And then marketing and publicity comes in. So that's been great. We put together this super awesome activity guide, which I put up on my website and should be on Page Street Kids' website. And we started working on opportunities to read the book to readers and schools. This event, yeah. I feel like I've been talking forever. Did I get, have I?
Yeah, I think as literary agents, we kind of always want to talk about how books are made. So you gave the whole process in depth, I think. And anybody who has gone through it in the room definitely understands the whole experience. Okay, but then let's get to some of the fun questions then. I think we have talked all about how this book was made. We have read it. So now let's know a little bit about, you know, your writing style and all of the fun moments that led you here. So what's your writing routine like? As an agent, I'm not taking notes, but as an agent, there's like no time ever, anywhere, to be found at all. So when do you even find time to write?
Well, the first thing I had to let go of is that idea that like a writer writes every day, because I can't write every day. And I think that's a lot of pressure.
It's tiring.
Yes. And I understand the importance of butt and chair for sure. But for me personally, to tie the identity of writer with being able to get a sentence on paper when, you know, we're working full time, we have families, there's a lot else going on. Yeah. So, you know, generally I'm writing on the weekends, or, you know, I'll still take a lunch break, right? Even though we're all working from home.
Yeah.
And I might get some writing in then, but I tend to write in spurts. So like, I'll have a period where I'm super productive and like, I'm just drafting like crazy. And then it's almost like I need a creative recharge, and I might have a few weeks where I don't write anything.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I will write a couple ideas or have a million ideas at one time and start drafting them. And then I will go months where I have done nothing. But it kind of like builds up, and then we've got it all out. And now I need to go take a nap in a cave. Anytime I reference a nap, I'm just going to. So what's your favorite part about it all? Like, what about writing for kids? What drew you to picture books? What is your hope to do with your books?
Yeah, I mean, what I love about children's lit is the sense of whimsy, and like anything is possible in children's literature, and specifically at the younger end of the spectrum, right? So I think there's a lot of room for play and discovery, and you know, I think at the same time, while I don't write a lot of these books, you know, I rep a lot of books that talk to kids about the harder stuff in life, and I think that's equally as important. And I think children's literature is a great way to have those harder discussions. So yeah, like I just love, like I love the idea that I could sit there and figure out like, okay, so how would I get like 15 alligators out of a castle and into a moat? And I did. I sat there and I drew out machines, and I was like, okay, I have to make sure I use all 6 of the simple machines. And
well, that was going to be my next question.
Like, yeah.
Did you do it?
I totally drew. I drew several contraptions, which even though they were only in the text as an art note, it's like I at least knew this could be done. There was a way to get these things in a way that could be illustrated. And it also, I think, just helped me with the characters, because I was figuring out like, well, who would be really good at, you know, this part of the machine, or fabricating this part of the machine.
Yeah. So your question wasn't only like, how can I get 15 alligators out? It's how can I also throw a king out of his own window? Because that is what happened. But do you have a favorite spread in the book? I do. And I'm curious if you do.
Okay. I'm curious if ours is going to end up being the same.
Okay.
All right. Hang on. I'm opening the book. All right. So mine is my 3 princesses in like the Rosie the Riveter-esque, like, yeah, we did it. I just think it's so,
the cover
image. Awesome. Yeah, the cover is very close.
Yeah. Mine is this spread. I love him in this little alligator costume outside, and her little tongue, concentrated face. I think yes. This one, I think this shows all of the, you know, whimsy that's in the book, both in your text and also in Julia's writing. I mean, illustrations. It's filled with color. It's funny. There's so many little details to follow. Little alligators under the desk. I think this spread encapsulates everything I love about the book.
Yeah. Did you? Oh, we should show everyone what's under the cover.
Oh yes.
Okay. So when you take, yeah, which I love. It's something that, you know, you don't see in every book, and it's a really nice surprise.
It is. I was telling for those, just to speak third person to everybody in the room, I was telling Tracy earlier that this book is so like well intentioned and highly produced, from the cover to the paper quality to everything about it. It's just really a beautiful book. Not to just lay it on thick, but it really is.
Yeah, I could not be any happier with it. Like, I think they did an amazing job.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so do you have any writing advice or creating advice for the authors and illustrators that might be in the room?
I think it might be read 1,000 picture books. It's true though, right? You have to, it doesn't have to be 1,000, but just, for authors, reading until that rhythm becomes almost innate. And then, for illustrators, I think it's the same. You want to be looking at how picture book artists are laying out their spreads and how they're using page turns to either create humor or put a pause in the book or, move time in some way. Like, there's so many elements to the art that I think, it's the same. You would learn by really absorbing a bunch of picture book art.
And Dana actually has a great tip in the chat that I never do, but everybody always says, to just type the text out. And I think take the picture book and type the text in a Word document. And I think the best way to sort of get a feel is to play with how the page turns are, play with the text, the type, the formatting, and you'll eventually get a feel of it for yourself.
Yeah. I actually did that for a client. There was a book that they could not access, and I wanted to show them how the text worked with the page turns. And so I typed some of it out and was like, and then put in notes like, okay, so like, see how this is working. Let's do that.
Yeah. It's a good like way to build your own mentor text in Word document form.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I know that we have a few minutes before the question and answer section. So if you have any questions, throw them in the Q&A part so that Tracy will have a bunch to answer when it's her turn. But I figured we'd give everybody a few nuts and bolts, which is what I'm calling them. Just a few things about what's next for you and where everybody can find you. So I've got a few questions. The first, you mentioned it earlier, but do you have an activity guide for parents, teachers, librarians, anybody educating a child?
Yes, so the activity guide has a scavenger hunt for the 6 simple machines, and it's something that kids can do in their house or at school. And the design team at Page Street just laid it out so nicely. There's a Which Princess Are You quiz, which I also posted up on my Instagram.
We have all done at this point.
Yes. I feel like for me, the answer's hard. I'm kind of a little bit of all of them, right?
I was going to ask, which one are you?
I'm a little bit of all of them.
I can see it.
Yeah. And then what else is there's a space for readers or activity guide users, students, to draw their own machine to get an alligator like back into the castle moat. And then also a space to decorate your own construction hat, which I was actually going to make myself a construction hat for one of my.
You should.
I hope I get to it.
Yeah.
I mean, if I do it, I want it to be like ridiculously awesome, right? So like covered in glitter or something, but.
So the activity guide is available on your website. Is it available on Page Street's website?
It should be. If it's not today, it should be in the future because they do have all of their activity guides for their picture books up on their website. Great.
Do you have any upcoming events that anybody else can find you online?
I do. I wrote them out so I didn't forget.
Great.
So May 11th at 4 p.m., I'll be doing a virtual visit with Brookline Booksmith. May 17th, Malia and I, she's the book designer for Princesses, will be in conversation at An Unlikely Story at 7 p.m. That's also virtual. And then May 27th at 6:30, I will be doing bedtime story time at Belmont Books with authors Nicole Cardoza and fellow picture book scribbler, Nicholas Solis.
Oh, cool. Where can people find you online?
So I'm at www.tracymarchini.com, and then I'm also on Twitter at Tracy Marchini and Instagram at Tracy Marchini. And then I do have a newsletter called The Quactory, because I like ducks, which I feel like probably most people here know that I like ducks.
Yeah, probably.
But that goes out probably like every other month with news about what I'm doing as an author and what's going on for my clients, and just a little bit of like behind the scenes. You know, especially during COVID, I've been talking a bit about what it's like to be an agent in these unusual times.
Yeah. Okay, my favorite part. Picture book authors don't get an acknowledgement section. It's the one thing that drives me crazy about picture books. I think we should have a page. We get to thank everyone. But you have a bunch of people, probably those closest to you here today. So I figured I'd give you the floor before Kira comes back in for Q&A to thank and shout out anyone you want to thank and shout out. This is your acknowledgement section. Go for it.
Okay. It like I wrote it out. It's like if it was a novel, like this would be appropriate. James does run a tight.
I do. I'm sorry. I'm very type A.
No.
Tracy knows this. So.
It's good. This is why you do the bookends YouTube, because you're like, let's go.
Gotta keep everybody on a tight schedule and get things moving.
Yeah. Well, so I want to thank everybody at Silver Unicorn for hosting me, for just the wonderful experience coming in yesterday to sign books, and it was wonderful. Everybody at Page Street, Courtney and Kayla, who are my editors, Lizzie and Lauren in marketing publicity, they've been fantastic. Malia and everyone in the design department. And then there's so many people behind the scenes who I haven't been in contact with, but I know have been working on this book. You know, the booksellers, book buyers, production, contracts, accounting. There's just so much going on that, you know, I never saw, but had to happen to make this book happen. I want to thank the Picture Book Scribblers and Steam Team Books. It's been awesome to share this experience with you guys and to just, you know, be part of such a fun group of people celebrating picture books. Jenny, Jenna, and Naomi for believing in the book, and for me, Sarah Shuda for the edits, James and Mo and everyone at Bookends, and Jessica for bringing me into this wonderful group, my friends and family who've been here throughout the journey, which has been, you know, since I was 14, so y'all been here a while.
Really reading the bad drafts and everything.
Yes. Yeah. Oh dear. I maybe owe people cookies.
It's just as much their publication day.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, the children's writers of the Hudson Valley, you guys have read things for me. And it's been, you know, a pleasure to have you guys there. And then everyone here today who's, you know, reading and celebrating, everyone who's, you know, even just like the likes and the retweets, they make a difference and it's appreciated.
Yes, they do. Well, that was a great acknowledgement section. Too bad they didn't get to print it for you, but you should slip it in every copy. And Kira's back.
This has been wonderful. Having an acknowledgement section is just the sweetest thing. I'm so glad that you got to say thank you to your biggest fans and your friends and your co-conspirators. That's so great. This has been so wonderful. In the time that we have left, we have questions. This is a great time. I know that there have been questions kind of floating as we've gone. So this is your next chance, your last chance to ask questions, y'all in the audience, before we say goodbye. I just want to note that an anonymous attendee asks, who's your favorite sibling? And I just want to put that out there. I'm just going to let you answer that. I don't know who your favorite sibling is, and now I want to know. So I'm just going to go on ahead and just say we're going to answer that live.
Wow. It would be the one that has an A in their name.
Nice. I love that. You know what? I love that. And we're just going to leave that as that. There are no follow-up questions to that. Don't put any of that in the chat, y'all. Don't put any of that in the chat. So Naomi wants to know what inspires you for new ideas the most. So is there a medium, so, you know, other books, TV, conversations with friends, where's that thing, where's that place that gives you your best spark?
You know, a lot of it is just conversations with friends and fellow writers. And I feel like around here, my husband's very witty. So, you know, sometimes there's just like a lot of like, someone will say something and it's like, oh, that sounds like a picture book. And, you know, we write that down. So I think it's just, you know, like Lori Halse Anderson once said that as a writer, you have to make room for art. And like, she means going and exploring other people's art and kind of bringing in those things. And I think it's true. I think, you know, like sometimes if I'm having a creative block, I'll knit, and it's like, it's just another form to kind of like get through. Yeah.
I love that you knit. That is the greatest thing ever. So wait, can we just pause on that? Because now I just, as a fellow knitter, I must know, like, so what's your favorite yarn? Like, what are you knitting?
Well, right now I'm knitting dish rags, which is not that interesting, but
that's wonderful because it's mindless. That's good.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. It's just like, I don't got to think about it. Yeah, I've done a lot of hats. I once tried to make all of my, so in college, I was part of a group of 10 girls and we lived in 2 apartments next to each other. And I tried to make 10 scarves before Christmas break. And I tried to do like a different pattern for each one. So some had cables and some had this like fun checkerboard pattern. And they're like, and of course I live with them. So they're like, what are you doing? And I'm like, oh, I'm making an Afghan. And I'm like, this would be the ugliest Afghan because it's 10 completely different, like you would not put these together to make something attractive. So that was probably my most ambitious project as a knitter.
That's awesome. That is the best. Oh, we're going to talk about yarn after this because now I just want to know. I just like, I have Magpie and Madeline Tosh behind me over there. So I just love having like, okay, we're not going to do that. James is like, what are we talking about here? Okay, so I want to know, Tim wants to know what part of the book that got cut was the hardest to leave? And maybe a use of machines that didn't get into the final version or something else?
So my version of the machines when I was drawing it out was I was gonna have, I don't know why, but it took me a while to realize that a wheel and axle could be used to like wind a rope around and like pull that way. So when I was sketching it out, that was like my big light bulb moment. I was like, oh my gosh, I could just have them like, you know, pulling on this thing and winding the rope, which would then pull an alligator that would be like in this like U-shaped box. But that didn't make it in, which is fine because, you know, I think what Julia did is much better. But I do remember being like, oh, that's genius. It wasn't that genius, but it just was something that took me a bit to figure out.
That is great. This is great. Karen has kind of a suggestion, but also a question. As you mentioned ducks earlier, for your newsletter, right? So, so Karen wants to know, speaking of ducks, Molly would like to know if you have ever considered a sequel to Chicken, Ducky Wants a Nap. What do you think?
I have not considered that, but I am totally on board. And if Molly wants to help me draft it, like, let me know. We will write this book.
I feel like that would be awesome. More nap books, please. Just like more naps in general. I just feel like this is a great thing.
Sure.
So I think Tim, a different Tim, wants to know, how does it feel to be able to both shepherd books along as an agent and create books as a writer?
I find it incredibly helpful because there are times that, what I'm doing as an agent will remind me that like, oh yeah, I should do that with my book too. And then there are times when, the opposite happens, right? I might be working on my writing and I'm like, oh, you know what I am doing in this, I think so-and-so should also do in their revision. Like that would really take it over the top. So, it's nice to always be immersed, kind of. Like we're talking about getting those 10,000 hours in, and it certainly helps if you're, kind of there all the time. But at the same time, like, I don't know, I don't feel like overwhelmed by the amount of time, like I don't know. I think it's partially that I just can't imagine doing anything else. So it's
I was just going to say that. Like being a book person, you are surrounded by books 24/7. So it's serendipitous.
Yeah. That is huge. That makes a lot of sense. Actually, that makes a lot of sense. Kate says, hi, Tracy. My 9-year-old wants to know, what is your favorite picture book?
Oh, that's tough. There's so many. So if I'm not allowed, am I allowed to name client books?
I don't know. Are you allowed to? Yeah, I was going to say we could all show our age and decide what and tell what our favorite picture book is, because I'm curious to know what James's is too. I just want to know what everybody's is. I think you can tell a person's age by their favorite one. So, but if you want to do a client one, go for it.
All right. Well, I'll say as a kid, my favorite one was Chatty Chipmunk's Nutty Day by Suzanne Gruber and Doug Cushman. And it's because it had this alliteration. It was like chitter, chitter, chatter. And there was just something about that stuck. Oh yeah, monster at the end of this book. That is fantastic.
Tim just said mine. There's a monster at the end of this book with Grover is the number one bestest. Still give it to people. My favorite forever and ever. Amen. Picture book.
Yeah.
James, what's your favorite? I'm just curious.
I think my favorite is Little Shop of Monsters by R.L. Stine and Tim. No, not Tim. I cannot remember the illustrator's name for the life of me, and I wish I could. But my nephews love that one. I could probably recite it for you at whim if you asked. So I'm gonna go with that one because it's a good one.
That is awesome. Yes, all these are great suggestions. That one's still in print. Yeah, that one's way still in print, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I'm always surprised when I go to purchase Monster at the end of this book and it's still in print. I'm like, yes, so good.
Yeah, and the hand lettering gets me.
Yes, it does. It is the best. And it's still, you can't help but giggle. It's the best. It's the number one bestest. Okay. Jenny, as far as generating ideas, do you find that sitting there in a focused, dedicated work time is where you generate your most ideas? Or do you find ideas come to you more on the fly when you're doing other things?
I think they're more on the fly. Like, I think drafting is when I can, like if I'm in that flow space, right, I can just sit down and get words on the page. But the ideas tend to be things that I like mull over, or like there's scraps of paper everywhere that's like, what if you had a duck in your pocket? Like, and then
what if?
Good
question.
Right? So, and those kind of like percolate and like float around either physically on a piece of paper or in the back of my head until I'm ready to, until that's like, okay, that's where the story is, right? Because it's like you've got your concept and then you've got the story, and I kind of have to like percolate until the story comes out.
I feel like if there was a duck in your pocket, you'd have to have bread to keep it cool. Like, I just, you know what I mean? Like, and I feel like it would just cascade from there. You know what I mean?
You need to write this book.
I mean,
I feel like it's like I've given mouse a cookie, but just like there's a definite
Yes.
it just all goes
Yes.
crazy. I just feel like this is yeah, you need to write that book. I think that would be
You
awesome.
have to write that book.
What picture book, I like this question from Carrie. What picture book have you seen published that you wish you had written?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I mean, we talked about Your Beautiful Beginning. That's wonderful. I love Creepy Carrots with like the Alfred Hitchcockian, like German expressionist vibe. I think that's brilliant. I mean, there's a ton of my client books that I wish
I was just
I'd
gonna say, I'm
written,
gonna shout one
like-
out because I know they're both here too, but I love
Yeah.
this book and I wish I had the idea. And Becky and Tara, you're brilliant. And it was great.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Awesome.
I remember being so excited when that came into my inbox. It's like, this is so brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I love, Charlene's Hug, which is kind of about, I think it's so important. It's like a girl who gives hugs until she's able to say like, no, like that's enough. And so just having the ability to, put such an important thing into this hysterical and beautiful book, like, yeah.
That was a good question.
I love that the books were just right behind you. It was so perfect. I love
That is my job. I am bookend social media manager, so I've got to have them ready to go.
Like ready to go. That was awesome. That was just like, that was so perfect. The last question in our Q&A, which is perfect as we're at the top of the hour, which I just can't believe this time has really flown. And I think that this is a really great question. Brenda wants to know, do you feel you were adequately exposed to STEM experiences, both in home and at school?
Yeah, at home I would say yes. So my dad was a computer engineer, and so we had a computer in the house before a lot of my friends did. And I had, I'm gonna age myself, like I had a Prodigy email and a Prodigy pen pal, which like Prodigy was before AOL. You didn't even have like a real screen name. It was like CDD-H04C was me. Can't believe I remember that. So, I definitely had access that way. In school, so in 6th or 7th grade, we found the old technology book in the classroom, and it said something about like, someday there will be a computer that fits on your desktop. And it was just like, this is so out of date, even for where I am. So I would say not in elementary school as much. But then in high school, my physics teacher was awesome. Like I got to drive the CO2 car, which I think went up to 50 miles per hour. I mean, like they strapped me in with a helmet and everything. And like, it's like one person in the class would get one shot down the parking lot, and I like drew the lucky straw. So that was amazing. So, I think that, but I think it had to be something that you sought out sometimes, right? Like, I think particularly as a girl, you might have had to be a little bit more vocal about kind of the STEM topics you were interested in. And like, I remember having a math teacher that was like, don't even show up for the AP exam. Like, it's a waste of time. And I was like, oh, I will show you. And I did. I studied my butt off. I'm like, I am going to pass this test. And like, sometimes I'm like, did he do that on purpose? I don't know. But either way, like, yeah.
Was he the inspiration for the king?
Yo.
Maybe subconsciously.
Wrong answers only for that one. That's awesome. Yes. Wow. Good for you. I'm so glad that this was the last question. That was just, it's so important. And your book is so important for all of these reasons, and for inspiring girls and boys and everyone, to do this problem solving and to have fun doing it, and to integrate all of the different ways that we can do problem solving, to do great things. This is just wonderful. As we come to the end of this, is there anything else you'd like to say to this audience who's been here for this whole entire hour just to celebrate you and has filled your chat with congratulations? Is there anything else you'd like to say?
I mean, just thank you. Like, thank you for being here and celebrating with me. And I hope you guys enjoy the book. Like, it's like the book comes out and then, I don't remember who said this, but it's like, right, it's not yours anymore. It belongs to the readers. And so, it's a scary moment, but it's an exciting moment. So, yeah.
It's true. It's true. It's wonderful. Well, this has been just the best. So I want you to hold up your book one more time. So Princesses Can Fix It is out, and it's for you to come and get at the Silver Unicorn, or at an independent bookstore near you. Emphasis on independent bookstore, y'all. But come see us at the Silver Unicorn. We are open for browsing. We can let 7 people into the store, and we want one of those 7 people to be you at any given time. So please come see us. And I also want to say just thank you so much to James. You've been a wonderful host this evening. You have a brand new book coming out called Good Night Oppie. It's coming out in September, on September 14th. Yes.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
And do you want to make a not shameless, like totally awesome plug for your book in September? Anything you want us to know about it so we can go get it?
Sure. Good Night Oppie is a sort of fictionalized but very fact-based retelling of the Opportunity rover's time on Mars. And it is filled with great science facts and beautiful illustrations by Graham Carter, and it publishes on September 14th. And I hope you love it and enjoy it and pick up a copy and place it on a shelf right next to Princesses Can Fix It, because they're both great STEAM books and they both can find a way into your curriculums.
And into your hearts. That's exactly right.
Oh, Kira, you're good at this.
Yeah,
You're good at this.
This is my job. I hope that you'll come see us so that we can celebrate you
I
in your
will.
new book. I cannot wait. That will be available at the Silver Unicorn, silverunicornbooks.com, and in an independent bookstore near you. Can't wait. Can't wait to see you, James. You're gonna come back and see us. You're gonna come back. Friends, as we wrap up this evening, just so that we are here for you. We're delighted to serve your picture book needs. So I hope that you'll come back to see us. I want to say that we have a lot of events happening this month at the Silver Unicorn, and next month. So please visit our website, silverunicornbooks.com. I do want to give a plug. Our next launch is not a children's book, but it is an awesome book, and I hope that you will check it out. Boys in the Void is a memoir by Jira Asim. He will be joined by Sasha Bonet and his brother Ayasi for this launch, and that is next Tuesday, May 11th at 7 p.m. right here on the Zooms. So this book, you wanna read this. It's amazing. It's not for kids. It's for grown folk. If you're a grown folk and you're on this, get this book, silverunicornbooks.com, and come see us. I'm hosting. It's going to be a great event. We also have other awesome Massachusetts authors coming to join us, like Jen DeLeon. We have Darielle Suarez at the end of June. There are just some really great, awesome things happening. So please come visit us. And in the meantime, read this book, get your signed copy of Princesses Can Fix It. Yes, one more time, Princesses Can Fix It. Get a signed copy, Silver Unicorn, silverunicornbooks.com. And come see us. Come see us. We miss you. We want to see you. Tracy, congratulations. Thank you for choosing us. Keep writing. We can't wait to celebrate your future books. You're amazing. James, congratulations on your upcoming debut. We can't wait to celebrate you when you come see us. I'm just going to put that out there into the ether. We can't wait. In person or on the Zooms. I don't care. Come see us.
Okay.
And for you writers out there, please know that, we love you. We celebrate writers. We want to see your work. We want to celebrate you just like we're doing for Tracy right now. So we're booking for September events. So if you've got a book coming out in the fall, I hope that you'll come see us. Send us an email. Okay. In the meantime, stay safe out there. We will see you very soon. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.